fallout, smoke, women crying for their sons because their sons are not, Romans killing riotous groups that are rising up. Free Judea, free our people, autonomy for Israel. You had Herod, an Edomite, and his dynasty. Herod's ruling, killing any potential threat, any potential Messiah. Then you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees that we learn from Josephus are not Jews by birth. No.
Brothers and sisters, they are there. We are not lost. We are scattered. We are original Hebrew.
Let's go! All praises be to the Most High God. Yeah, I say it.
I was opportune to meet my grandparents, whom from childhood had always made us to understand that we are one of the lost tribes of Israel. Okay. So, from my grandmother.
Morocco was the first nation in the world to recognize the United States of America 237 years ago.
First nation to recognize my country was Morocco. In signing the treaty.
Yes! Yoruba, Israel, the tribe of Joseph. Peace, love, blessings, and welcome back to the channel, family. Welcome back to Zion Dynasty with yours truly, your favorite dreaded Israelite. I'm back in the fringed up flesh, about to drop this knowledge and hit y'all with that. Bang! All glory, honor, dominion, and power to the Most High Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Y'all, welcome back to the channel. Y'all, this is gonna be a big one, y'all. Y'all better put your think caps on, get you the pen and paper, write down this history that I dropped, take some notes on these precepts. We're about to go into this thing about America. Y'all, I know y'all seen it in the America being the promised land. We're gonna deal with it. A lot of y'all have been asking for that video to deal with it. When I talk about Africa being the promised land, a lot of y'all say, no, it's America, no, it's America. And to a lot of y'all, and shout out to my brother Dane Calloway, that brother's doing some great research into the Native American roots of our people. And a lot of y'all like, wait a second, Native American? Y'all, I'm telling you, we finna deal with it. And all of these trains of thought, this is why I tell y'all, our history is connected. All of these different black power groups and ideologies have puzzle pieces that when you put it together, you see Moorish, Ephraim, Moorish, Israelites. I'm telling you, if you look even at the Book of Mormon, I know it's contention in Zion about the Book of Mormon. The whole premise was that there was a group of Ephraimites, Northern Kingdom, specifically I think Gadites, that were Moors, that sailed to the Americas because the Moorish people owned America as well during the time of the Moors. And that a treaty was made with Christopher Columbus in America to recognize this corporation that is the United States. Y'all, we finna deal with every bit of it on this video. So first, y'all like this video up, comment, share, subscribe. If y'all want to donate to the channel, I'm gonna have that as well. If y'all want to cash up and that kind of thing, y'all's donations means everything to us. It lets us know that y'all are just being encouraged by these lessons and keeps us motivated to be able to throw ourselves at this work, y'all. So we're gonna jump into it. So first of all, I know a lot of y'all seen that and say, America ain't the promised land, it's Israel, it's Israel, it's Israel, it's Africa, Africa, Africa. We're gonna deal with it, family. Oh yeah, we're gonna deal with it. Now, first of all, I'm gonna let y'all know, I'm gonna do a brief explanation. Then I'm gonna let you guys see some clips by some Moorish brothers, and it's gonna blow your mind, and I'm gonna try to come back through and do a little follow-up. But first, let's talk a little bit. So I'm gonna show the scriptures where the land of Canaan was promised to Abraham and his descendants forever, right? So I'm gonna put that on the screen and let you guys see. So we know that the land of Africa, we know that the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, is really Northeast Africa. That the Middle East is a relatively new term, dating back 500 or so years. This has not been a term of antiquity. This is some political term that they made up. The Middle East is Northeast Africa. So we see in the scriptures that the land of Canaan, now the original borders, we could say that went down to Ethiopia and that kind of thing, but all of this was the promised land for Abraham, right? So Africa, basically Africa was promised to Abraham. So what about America? Is there any connection? Do our people have any ties to this continent? First, we got to know some history. If you don't know yourself, you can't know where you're going. If you don't know your past, you will never know your future. If you don't know your own history, you'll never know that you have a glorious birthright to claim. Now, this is all summed up in the Moors. Y'all check out that secret treaty, that video of 1786. And I know y'all saw, I dropped a little clip of Barack Obama and President Biden both talking about Morocco being the first country to recognize American independence. Y'all don't know how powerful this is. They're still not telling you everything. Morocco owns America. Now y'all, I don't want to lose y'all, but you have to understand this Moorish history to understand where is this America promised land coming from. The Moors own rights to the United States of America, and I'm gonna prove it for y'all. Now, I showed y'all the 1786 treaty that the United States made with Morocco. It is the longest standing treaty in American history. Morocco was the first country to recognize the independence of America. America operates on Moorish soil.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
Hear me. Now, this gets into the 12 tribes chart, which I don't subscribe to, but I'm gonna use it to show y'all where this comes from. When it says the Native Americans are Gad. Now, there are Igbo people that claim to be Gad. How are both of these reconciled? They're Moors. Now, the Moors, which were Moorish Ephraimites originally, dominated, those ancient Amazigh Berbers dominated North Africa. They eventually migrated into Spain, dominated Spain, until they were banished out of Granada in 1492 by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Prior to that, the Moors dominated Africa, Arabia, Spain, and the Americas. You had Moors that lived over there in the Americas and did business, did trade on behalf of the Moorish capital, which is Morocco. Which most African Americans, you do your DNA, is going to say you are a Moorish Israelite, a Moorish Ephraimite. Moor is just a black nationalist term of Africa, ancient Africa, or during the time of that rulership. So by ethnicity, you are a Ephraimite Israelite. Nationality, you are a Moor, because the Moorish Empire covered multiple continents. Africa was the base, but America belonged to the Moors as well. This is why in the same year, in 1492, when those Israelites, those Moors, were banished out of Spain and they went into Morocco, then went deeper into West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria. This is where Christopher Columbus in that same year knew about the Moors over there in the Americas and in West Africa. How did he know that? He had a Moorish guide. Now this gets into them selling our people out a little bit. He had a Moorish guide that allowed him to speak Hebrew. The Moorish guide spoke Hebrew and communicated with a lot of the Native Americans. A lot of those Native American tribes that were Moors, we are related to. So yes, when they say, well, we are always here, we never were in chains. There were Moors that were taken into transatlantic, so don't let people get you totally confused. But there were Moors that sailed over to the Americas because the Moorish Ephraimites dominated the whole earth during the time of the Moorish Empire from 711 CE to 1492 when they were banished out of Spain, and we saw that empire crumble. Why is this important? The Yoruba and the Igbo Sephardic Israelite oral tradition. I showed y'all the Yoruba oral tradition verified by Cambridge, the Jewish Virtual Library, the Jewish Diaspora Encyclopedia. Y'all, I ain't going through that. Y'all gotta check those videos out. Basically, the Yoruba claimed to come from Morocco, which was the capital of the Ephraimite Moorish Empire. But the Danyayas, the Abarbanels, also never ceased to trace their origin to King David. Y'all watch this. Those related to the David family, we find after the expulsion of the Jews from Spain, we find them in Morocco. And they settled in Nigeria when the European Christians pushed them out of Spain and pursued them into Africa. Now, Christopher Columbus was given license through Spain and Portugal. But what they don't tell you is the Moroccan government reached an agreement with these Europeans to allow them to, okay, we're gonna allow y'all to set up a corporation so that we can end this war between those Roman Christian Europeans and these Moorish Israelites once and for all. This is the history they don't tell you. Morocco allowed these Europeans to create the superpower of America, to create a peace treaty. This happened during the time of the independence of America. We see that take full effect, but it started with the Moroccan government allowing them to do trade with them. This is where a lot of our ancestors were taken from our own people into the Americas, but you already have Moors like the Cherokee Indians, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, and the Creek Indians. These are just a few. You got some Appalachian Melungeons. When you hear Melungeons, a lot of these Appalachian Native Americans have sub-Saharan Negro DNA. Wait, how do these Native Americans match with the Yoruba? They're all the same people. If you look at my true ancestry on the haplotype globe, it will show you Yoruba in the Native in the Americas. How did this happen? You had Moors that were over on this side as well. So this is why America originally belongs to the Moorish Ephraimites. Those Moors, those Moorish Israelites, that continent belongs to them, but they allowed these Europeans to do business for a time period. Now that stuff gets very deep. It looks like the book of Job, basically, where the Most High allows Satan to have his way with his people for a season, and then the Most High says, I'm coming to collect, restore my people. And it's some chess master kind of stuff, y'all. So I'm gonna show y'all some clips that go into this history. I just wanted to give y'all a brief kind of breakdown on where America comes from, that America does belong to the Moors. Is it the chief promised land? You can't say that. If the chief base of our people is Africa, but America does belong to the Moors, so we do have a birthright to it. Now it gets deep when you look at the components of the 1786 peace treaty with Morocco and America. It says that any person that claims to be a Negro or colored cannot utilize any autonomy or fair treatment for them to receive. This stuff gets very deep. So if we call ourselves bywords and proverbs, we're locked under a subservient role. Y'all like, what? That's how deep. It's crazy. Like when I found that out, I was like, what the? So us knowing who we are frees us, because you can claim to be a Moorish American and receive a lot of benefits, a lot of freedom. And if all of our people said we were Moorish Ephraimites, Moorish Israelites, immediately America would have to repatriate us back to Africa. Now I just dropped a nugget that y'all might have to replay a couple of times. I hope you let that sink into your spirit, the power of how deep this stuff is. Now, I'm going to show y'all some clips by a Moorish brother going into that detail, and I'm going to pick back up. All praise to the Most High. Yeah.
We started thinking like the colonists took over True Our Leaders, started dropping it. The problem is we started thinking like the colonists took over True Our Leaders, started dropping.
Had four of these major impacts that the black people have made to the Americas, not only before Columbus was born, but before even Spain or Italy existed. That's the kind of roots that are in this country.
This is a part of history that we're not allowed to know. And Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this.
What connects it up is even the word Moor, because it's pronounced differently in different parts of Africa. And they call themselves Moor, Mu, Mur. There's all variations of that, so even the name Mur.
Noble Drew Ali was sent on a mission back to America, where he was from, to teach the Moorish people their true heritage. And he taught that there were Moors in America before there were what we know as Native American Indian, and that this history has been obscured and robbed. And it's not only robbed the so-called black people, it's robbed the white people. It's robbed everybody, because the knowledge is what's lost, you know. And it's almost, you have humanity enslaving its best, you know, taking the best part of itself and cutting it off.
So therefore, teach the people. They will solve the problem. That's why the Drew Ali said to the people, he says, this is your Moorish movement. The Negro problem is your problem. Even some of Europeans are helping me. Why aren't you?
Brought in, and I'm just researching this stuff on my own. I'm not being prompted to do it.
America is Morocco.
Yes.
Your brother from Morocco.
Thank you. Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this. The so-called black people, which were really of Moorish descent and heritage, their true heritage, and that this whole stuff about African slaves, I mean, look, there were a lot of slaves brought over from Africa, don't get me wrong, but
this was not where all the black people came from. There were black people of Moorish descent here in America.
And by knowing that, and the more you know about it, it's an empowerment. You have got a heritage which is more than slavery. Sure, there was slavery, but that's not all. That's all part of it. Long before that, there's a heritage of kings, seafarers, religious missionaries, and they were all here. But it happened so long ago, there's just so little of it left.
You understand? That's the advantage of what happened because they know your real history and you don't. Are you clear? This is a part of history that we're not allowed to know. And Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this. Now, Noble Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, established the Moorish Divine and National Movement in North America, really around 1911, 1912, and officially active 1913. A lot of preliminary work was going on before the movement was initially, or what you call officially, established. So whereas people look at it as the movement starting in 1913, that's the official date of what you say official activity. But the business was going on for quite some time.
The history of Noble Drew Ali was that he was at a Pan-American conference in Havana, Cuba, where all of the dignitaries, state diplomats from all countries of the world, particularly Pan-American countries, gathered and he was shown a mandate, which basically showed that the America was the rightful possession of the Moors. And this mandate was so powerful, and I believe it was showed to him by the Secretary of State, or the Secretary of State of America saw it. But after this conference in 1928, all of the European countries pulled their money out of America because they saw that America was risky, because the true corporate shenanigans of the entire country were being, and the sovereignty of America as it stood was being threatened by the presence of Noble Drew Ali and this mandate.
Fact is, that part of history is not taught to separate you from your authority, your self-authority, the empire of the world, and particularly the Moroccan Empire in which you're standing right now. How come you ain't getting this in school? Because they don't want you to know that you're standing on Morocco, that the land is Morocco, the occupational government is the United States. Distinguished from the land, it's a foreign religious corporation belonging to the Jesuits. You're under occupation.
Morocco was the first nation in the world to recognize the United States of America 237 years ago. December 1777. So I come here to say thank you.
The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco. In signing the treaty,
This treaty specifically deals with Moors. The question that may arise, how do we know that where the treaty says Moors, the so-called black people of the time is being referred to? The Moors were considered citizens or part of the we the people who ratified the Constitution. It says, quote, thus an act was passed in Massachusetts on the 6th of March, 1788, forbidding any Negro not a subject of the Empire of Morocco or a citizen of the United States from carrying in the Commonwealth, unquote. For this would show that those who referred to as Negroes were actually Moors, and that they were on the same footing or status as citizens. Those who remembered that they were Moors used the Moroccan Treaty of 1787 to secure the rights on the same footing as the state citizens without otherwise being obligated members of their social equality. While those who were brainwashed into believing they were Negroes, descendants of Africans brought here by Europeans, were unprotected by the Moroccan Treaty, as well as the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution.
The Constitution is their sanction to do business at Morocco. There's that business flag of amity and commerce. Now you understand why you have that Moorish flag, and then you have the stars and stripes. It's a banner. It's not the national flag. This is the national flag. It's your history. You're standing on your own land, trying to go to Africa, and you're standing on Africa. The Constitution is their obligation. That's not some instrument that, oh, you know, it's interesting if y'all know something about it. And if you don't, oh, it's not important. Why do you think politicians don't teach the Constitution to children in schools? Because that's the document that gives them the authority to do everything that they're doing. Without the Constitution, there is no government. Once you understand that, you understand where you need to be to protect your Moorish birthright. And the Moorish birthright is to protect the Constitution and to enforce the Constitution. The abuses that you've been getting is because that document has not been enforced. It has not been enforced because you ain't been in your proper person. Y'all been busy being colored people. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So concept of mind, get out of it. You're not Negro, black, and colored, and you gotta be that, not that officially. That's what nationalization process is for. That's why he did it. Do you understand? These have political ramifications. So it changes your political status in the society for the record. That's number one, because it's documented now. You see what I'm saying? So that gives you a standing at law across the world. Now, do you know what to do with that? That's the next issue. Do you know how to proceed with that? Those are the parts of the information that was suppressed by the subversives, COINTELPRO, etc., that was inverted into this movement with the FBI, CIA, etc., which is really the OSS, to subvert this movement. Having the people think it's a religious movement when actually it's a movement to bring people back into the constitutional fold of government and to enforce that Constitution for the protection of all the peoples. But he knew that they could not be protected as Negro, black, and colored because that's a category of a caste system. It's not human. It is not human. Does not pertain to humanity. It is outside of the human family, therefore outside the law, therefore outlawed.
So there was all this in the United States of America becoming a corporation and all these sort of sleight of hand legal manipulations, which is not my expertise, but you can study them and they certainly exist. And this was all as a result of the presence of Noble Drew Ali in this world.
And everybody knows that, but that kind of spoils the game that they've been playing on our people. You see the point? Because everybody around the world knows that the United States is a corporation, not the land. And our people keep calling the United States Corporation Company the country, which gives them the sovereign right, because you're the heir. Whatever you say, you've just assigned them. Then they call them Americans and they call the country America, which you just assigned them to the sovereign. Which means these people only know geography. America's not a country, it's two continents. They're incompetent. And don't understand that when they say those things, in law, it's what you say. What you mean is irrelevant. What you said is what it is. And this is what makes it dangerous for our people to get this information and not be given law. Because their arguments will be based in emotion, totally correct emotionally, totally correct symptomatic, but the law legally dead. Problem is that they're not aware of the legal ramifications because they don't study law. You see the problem? You know, and so all these things which the Europeans have been using to take advantage of our people because they don't study and it doesn't fit their beliefs. Here we go.
The other thing that they like to talk about is the idea that the United States is a corporation, right?
Yes. Well, it is. That's true. The United States is a corporation.
Right.
And if you roll over that back, you'll see exactly the connection between the United States being a corporation and the Federal Reserve not being federal at all and being a private organization. And sure, you can pull back all of that, you know, and see how corrupt our government is. Yes, right. That's true.
You understand? So now what we have to do is begin to systematically bring the correct information so that when, as Moors become conscious and they get repressed by the corporations, which is substituting as a government, that they have some redress, some method of redress.
Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this.
Look at the timeline. When Drew Ali established the Moorish Divine National Movement, 1913. All right. On the other side of the government, they met and they established the Internal Revenue Service. Yes, Federal Reserve System. Now, when Drew Ali was doing his work and about to establish this movement officially, Woodrow Wilson had got his degree at Johns Hopkins University, his PhD, and he was being, at that time, courted for the election to the presidency of the United States Republic. Now, during the Wilson administration, to counter Noble Drew Ali, you must really understand this so you can understand a lot of activities that are going on with a lot of different groups.
But what we do know is that after that conference, there was a stock market crash because of this, and then the entire country was reorganized and reincorporated. And you had all this FDR coming along in the 1932 and Admiralty Court superseding the regular United States Constitutional Court and taken off of the gold standard.
That's when Wilson, he's a knight. What you call President Wilson. They made deals, and what they did, they were in the process of stealing your gold and your silver. Now, do you know what separations of powers is? When our forefathers set up this Constitution in order to stop these wars between the Moors and the Roman nations and set up the United States uniquely as a symbol for the rest of the world, as a pattern to go back to the ancient laws and principles of civilization which were founded by the Moors, which were violated, which is why you are having these wars in the first place.
Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this, that America was Americanos. We got the name America from Americanos, not from Amerigo Vespucci. And Americanos means El Morocco. And that Morocco was the Sultanate of Morocco was the ruler of America at one point. Now this goes back into a very deep history.
He also knows that North America is known as Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa.
Of course. I know that. North America was known as Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa, and it reported to Sultan of Morocco.
And of course, Barack Obama has to know about the Moors because he's from Chicago. And I'm told that even the white people in Chicago know about the Moors because they have a very strong presence in the parades.
The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco.
Hey, good. Hey, tell my brothers, boy. America, Morocco.
Oh, yeah, Morocco. America is Morocco.
Yes.
Your brother from Morocco.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, let the people know, the kingdom know, we're the empire.
It's America, Morocco.
Yeah, Maghreb.
America, Morocco.
Maghreb.
Yes.
Maghreb, Alexa.
Maghreb.
The relation between the first, colonials and the governors of Morocco, because they communicated, because on paper it was part of Greater Morocco.
That's known.
And part of that settlement was that Moorish citizens, going back years, hundreds of years in some cases, should be released. And all they needed to do was go to the president, go to the White House and say, I'm a free Moorish national. Let me go, and they would be freed from bondage.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
The problem with George Washington is not that he didn't recognize it, was that he didn't announce it. He didn't make it known. He obscured the fact, even from his own slaves. He didn't tell them, we made a deal with the Moroccans and you can go if you're a Moorish national. And so this is George Washington chopping down the cherry tree. And this is a part of history that we're not allowed to know. And Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
The story of George Washington and the chopping down of the cherry tree. The Moroccan flag was the red flag, the red standard. It was called the cherry tree because it was red. Originally it was pure red. They later put a green favor on it, or a green pentagram on it to distinguish it from maritime red flags. But it was originally red, and it was called the cherry tree.
Now, it is a great Masonic secret that has long been revealed that it was George Washington who chopped down the cherry tree of the Moors, erasing them from the history books and removing their nationality, crest, and turbans. It was even predicted that in a few hundred years, many of them would not remember who they were or their connection to the land.
So George Washington chopping down the cherry tree referred to the fact that the first treaty with the United States of America was with Morocco, and part of that arrangement between their diplomacies was that Morocco had sued America during the Revolutionary War because they were enslaving their people. The Sultan was so they sued America, and America did not respond. So Morocco started taking American ships hostage, and this resulted in a diplomatic squabble, which eventually was settled with the first peace treaty of the United States of America.
The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco. In signing the treaty,
it was Morocco who supported and gave rise to the independence of the United States of America as it has been recognized by President Obama.
The first nation to recognize my country was Morocco.
And so this is George Washington chopping down the cherry tree. And this is a part of history that we're not allowed to know. And Noble Drew Ali was here to teach people this.
Moorish Americans are indigenous to America.
And there was supposedly a capitulation between the Moors of Granada, whereby they ceded the new continent, as it was called, and it was called in the papers, if you look at that, Ferdinand and Isabella gave Columbus. It does not say Asia, it does not say India, it calls it the new continent. And he goes to explore the new continent. And they essentially had some sort of right or lease on this land, and this would be buried somewhere in the Vatican archives. And Columbus is basically going there to set up the triangular trade route, the forerunner of the triangular trade route, and to enslave the Moorish nation. And the rest is history, and this is why you have all this ridiculousness that Columbus was the discoverer of America. This is utterly ridiculous. To any legitimate historian, they know that he did not discover America and the whole history. So that's my overview of Noble Drew Ali in a nutshell.
And recognize how you've been miseducated, not just by Europeans, but by your own. These people know that you're not black. They don't doubt it. They know that you're not black. And they know that you're Moors. One of the issues is when you begin to really wake up, every time a Moor wakes up, because you can't become what you already are. What happens, you have Moors who are unconscious, and then you have Moors who are conscious to different degrees. You know, it's like the sun comes up and, casts shadows. Different times of the day when it's high noon, lights on everything. But different people are different degrees of understanding. And so therefore, when they look at this Moorish Divine National Movement, most people, for a misunderstanding, look at it as a religious movement because religion is mentioned once in a while. It's only to turn you back to your creeds so you can understand that religion was also used to enslave people. So you got to know what's happening so you know how to get out of this mess. So you know when someone's teaching you divine principles that ascend you or that assist you in your ascension, and people are using it just to enslave you or get your lunch money. And so you can tell the difference.
All praises, honor, and glory to them. I'm telling y'all, this stuff is iconic. Now, what I want y'all to get. So the first country to recognize America was the Moroccans. The longest treaty in American history is with Morocco. Morocco recognized and allowed the autonomy of those European Roman Edomites to operate on their Moorish soil. So our people are Moors. If we enacted that and said we don't claim to be colored, if we created a new term for our entire people and said we're Moors, we're Moorish Ephraimites, this is who we are, we can enact that to gain rights. Y'all got to see how deep this stuff is. Not just that, family, but when you do your old bones, I done told y'all, this proves it. When you do your Matru ancestry, when you do your African ancestry, we go back to the Northern Kingdom. What gets deeper, family, is the fact that Morocco, being a descendant of Ephraim, is a descendant of Joseph. Now, y'all got to understand this now. So these Moroccan Ephraimites are Joseph's lineage. If you look at the back of your dollar bill, there is a star above the eagle head that had, now I know y'all probably ain't seen this, but it is the Star of David. Pull out a dollar bill, look on where that eagle is on the back of it, you'll see a Star of David with 13 stars. Now this goes back to the prophecy of Joseph. That's why I've been telling y'all that the birthright, I get excited y'all, has always been with Joseph. The Messiah, the whole thing has always been given to Joseph's seed through Ephraim. Let me show y'all something. So Joseph has a dream. This is the dream that got him into captivity. He has a dream where 13 stars are going to bow down to him. Wait, JP, that ain't in the Bible. Yes, it is. It says 11 stars, the sun, and the moon. These are 13 stars, astronomical entities that would bow down to Joseph. On the back of the dollar bill, it says the Great Seal under that pyramid, and it also has the Star of David over the eagle. That means Morocco been running this country the whole time. I got to tell y'all, it gets deep. But not just that, that means that the prophecy of all the tribes and all the earth and those 13 astronomical entities, those 13 stars bowing down to Joseph, has been fulfilled with America bowing down before Morocco, the Ephrati family, the Ephraim people, which are Ephraimites, son of Joseph. Y'all, this stuff gets legend. So I'm gonna show y'all a clip on just how deep this goes. Basically, there is a food shortage going on, y'all. And the country that has the most phosphorus, which is chief in using for agricultural fertilizer to be able to fight off world hunger, Morocco has 70% of it. Prophecy, that Bible is real, y'all. Just as Joseph, during the time of the famine, made distribution to all the earth, Morocco has the most phosphorus in the earth. I'm gonna show y'all that clip. Let's look at it.
But really, we don't even need to know when the world will run out of phosphate, because we are already seeing shortages. And also, we are seeing countries take drastic economic policies to protect their own phosphate. For example, phosphate prices have increased by roughly 80% since early 2020. In September of 2021, China banned exporting of any of its own phosphate in hopes of assuring that it had enough phosphate to produce enough fertilizer to grow its own food for the foreseeable future. But there is one key aspect that I've left out until this point, and that is this. You see, China has the second largest phosphate reserves in the world, as it owns roughly 5% of the world's phosphate. And keep in mind that is second on this list, and it is already concerned about its phosphate supply. Syria has the third largest amount of phosphate at 3%, Algeria is next at just under 3%, and the rest of the world has only 2% or less each per country in terms of the world's phosphate reserves. But then at number one, there is the country of Morocco. You see, Morocco owns a whopping 70% of the world's phosphate. And let's think about that for a second. One nation owns 70% of a resource that can dictate which other nations will be able to feed their populations. In fact, within the next several decades, the world's food supply could become dependent upon whoever Morocco chooses to trade with or who they choose not to trade with. Or maybe, just simply, Morocco will just sell off the phosphate to the highest bidder. There is also the potential for international conflict or cooperation, as that has been seen throughout history with any valuable resource. And this would be far from the first time that we have seen wars started or partnerships enacted that revolved around the acquisition of fertilizer. In fact, increasingly every single year, large populous countries like India, Mexico, and Brazil are becoming even more reliant upon Moroccan phosphate or their agricultural industries. And other nations like the United States have been placing tariffs on Moroccan phosphate and going in the other direction. Now, it is worth mentioning that peak phosphorus as some are calling this predicament, may not occur as soon as we think. As mentioned earlier, estimates range from seeing significant shortages relatively soon to seeing shortages that occur in several hundred years from now.
So family, I done gave y'all enough to chew on. Y'all check out that Joseph birthright video. The birthright was always with Joseph, the Messiah, all these things. But my camera getting ready to die. So peace, love, blessings, and Israelite power. I hope y'all were blessed. Be blessed with the blessings of the everlasting hills and the dew of heaven. I love you all with the love of the Messiah. Shalom. All praise to the Most High Yah.